Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living. It's good to have you all with us on this Easter day. I know a number of you are traveling. I see I've gotten messages, and some of you are watching with your families. Today's the day, as Celia alluded to, of multiple, I'll say, holidays in different traditions. And actually, that was kind of the challenge in coming up with the lesson for today, because we've been around a long time, and I have a rich vault of information, lessons going back many, many years from Dr. Grayson and Dr. Barker and Dr. Wade. And in the early days, they would be talking a little bit about the empty tomb, thinking in terms of the resurrection of Jesus and the symbology behind that. And then I noticed there's other talks that would be talking about the eternal spring and the equinox. And so there's a whole lot of information that I was reviewing this week. And, the challenge for a new thought minister is always coming up with a different way to talk about principle, because we're really always talking about one central idea, and that is that life is responding to you in some way, and you have power available to you, power to use, Dr. Holmes said, and we can use the power. So the science of mind, our teaching in particular, is a teaching, healing ministry, and by that I mean we actually teach you how you can use this power for your greater good. You have power available. Everyone has power available. The thing is, most people don't realize that they have power available, and they misuse their power. And consciousness is that which drives everything. And so we come into our teaching week by week, and we learn more about this presence, this power, and how it can be used. So let's get a little bit into our Easter message. I want to invite you, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or any of the platforms watching us, there's always going to be a chat room where there's a link that you can connect with, and you then can join us on Zoom. Zoom is always the more intimate way to experience us, because after everything we do, there's going to be discussion. Oftentimes, the discussion is as valuable as the lesson itself. And after our lesson and discussion on Sundays, we have a community section, and today, Celia, who you just met, or some of you know, is going to be facilitating a very good discussion, an interesting discussion. So I'm hoping you're able to stay tuned. And if I haven't welcomed everyone who's new, I want to welcome you. If you're on Zoom afterwards, we generally go around. You can say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from wherever, and you can comment if you'd like to. So, again, happy Easter to everybody who celebrates it. Easter is a holiday that coincides with the equinox, and it's always been a representation of rebirth. It's been celebrated in many cultures for thousands of years. This celebratory time, was celebrated long before the Christian religion even was on the scene. So the Easter story, though, in terms of Christianity, and more modern day, personalizes for the followers of the Christian religions and encourages the followers to have courage and to engage life more fully. In the Christian religion, there is the empty tomb, and there is the resurrection of the Spirit. In New Thought, and that's what we are a part of, we're a New Thought group, we learned that this cycle of birth and death and the new replacing the old, it's a constant repetitive cycle throughout life. The new is always coming forth. We understand in New Thought that life is a moment-by-moment experience. And we can witness it, and we can take a pause, and we can slow down, and we can experience this rebirth of newness and aliveness in every new moment. In our teaching, much like nature itself, we learn to leave the old ideas behind us, and we're open and receptive to new ideas as they emerge and as we discover them. We don't try to hang on to things that don't work, hopefully. If you're in this teaching, you really get that eventually. We develop the willingness to trade in that which doesn't support us anymore. Even though it might have supported us for many years, we know that life is moving forward, and we have the willingness to take a look, to take a pause, and to let go. Some people will say let go and let God or let the universe inform us, which it always will if we let it, so we can move forward. A lot of people really don't like change, right? And they don't like letting go of things that are routine. They don't like letting go of what they love, people they love. They don't like letting go. They want everything to be the same. But that's not realistic in life. I remember studying a course years ago, and it was Heraclitus, I believe, at pre-Socratic, who said you cannot stand in the same river twice. I mean, life is always, every day is going to be different. And you might try to keep things the same, but it's not really possible. As people, sometimes we grieve when things change and doors are closed, and there's always going to be doors closing in life, and there's always going to be doors opening in life. Life is about change, and as we embrace the teaching more and more, we celebrate change. And we know that there's an evolution going on always within us. This rising spirit rises everywhere. It's in us, it operates through us, and it operates through all people everywhere. And we're teaching and we're taught here, and we embrace the idea that it's evolving in beauty and in love and in goodness and in divine harmony. And oftentimes in the world it doesn't look like that. But that's really how it works. If we look at our own life, and we can look back a few years, a few months sometimes, but certainly over a period of a few years, you can look back and you can see, oh my goodness, these situations that seem so awful that were always there as a lesson for us to bring us to a greater place of understanding. So as we get into religious science, as we get into New Thought, we start to consciously choose to develop and trust the process of life, is a saying that Louise Hay often said. We consciously choose to develop and trust the process of life, and we face the challenges willingly, and as we do so, there's transformation, and the process becomes easier and easier. One of my teachers was fond of saying life is like being in a school. There's always going to be something new to learn. Every day is a bit of an adventure. And it can be if you approach it that way. If you wake up with excitement and say, oh my goodness, this is a new day and I'm excited to be here. And you know, you're like a child with a sense of delight, because you know that, there is life and it's active and it's responding to you. Now, in contrast, if you're waking up and the alarm clock's going off and it's drudgery and it's just trepidation and I've got to be here and I got to be there, and you get into the old story of ain't it awful and poor me and all of that stuff. You're creating from that awareness. So it's important to take that pause and slow down and remember that you are one with the one, a child of the universe, and everything is here for you, and all the universe is conspired to bring you where you are, and you've made choices that have got you where you are, and the final chapter has not been written. You can, starting here, starting now, starting today, make a choice and to do things differently. And then the thing is to keep with the choice and keep being open to new. and having the willingness to let go of that which doesn't serve us, and to keep embracing the new and the good, and develop your consciousness so that you have positive expectancy. And then you'll be amazed. There's an expression, I'll be amazed before I'm halfway through. So this science is actually a science. It's a practice. And most of you who have been around for a while know this. The Holy Week message in every tradition I'm aware of is one of preparation to a new level of consciousness. Preparation so we can rise. So let us, as a new thought center, celebrate it by preparing to release any limitation you can think of that's within you today. Anything that's in your affairs that causes doubt or worry. Let us today, in our own minds, identify what it is or what the things are, and we'll say to ourselves, I have the willingness to release this. And then, imagine, vision what is true. And I'm going to tell you the truths are going to be attributes of God, what some call the 7 ups. It'll be things like, we're going to embrace peace, power, love, joy, beauty, wisdom. These are the things that are of spirit, and these are the things that are ours. We're supplied, we're supported, we're creatures of light and love. And all of this is the truth of us. So let's be willing to replace the ideas that I'm not sufficient, I'm not good enough, or I'm bad, or I've done bad things, and I'm, to anything. Wherever we judge ourselves, whatever we do, let's have the willingness to release that and replace it. Any limiting idea, wherever we doubt ourselves, wherever we're being critical, any resentment that we have, let this day, this special day, let us identify it, not so that we're critical of ourselves, just so, okay, I'm aware, this is something I've been entertaining, and I have the willingness to release it now. I've learned what I need to learn, and I replace it with an idea of truth. As we do this, as we keep working with this teaching, we're lifting our vision towards what is true. We're hitching our wagon to a star, which is what Ralph Waldo Emerson always said. Because as you hitch your wagon to a star, you're raising your vision, and what will happen is you're creating a spiritual prototype. You actually are one with the one, and you have the ability to create your life. So it makes a lot of sense that we ought to be creating wonderful, magnificent lives. And we want to look away from the conditions, and we want to look away from the stories that we perpetuate ourselves. All those stories that will tell us that we're not okay, and there's something wrong with us, and there's something missing. We want to let go of that today, if we can, and I know we can if we want to. We want to let go of it, and we want to set our sights much higher, hitch that vision, to the stars, the truth of who you are, and allow yourself to embrace and feel what it is to be successful and healthy and lover of life and have freedom, and let that vision speak to you, because really what it is the spirit within you is moving you as you release these other states of consciousness and go to a higher place and let yourself feel it and know it to be true. You will be opening up avenues in mind so that you can experience this reality, this greater truth, which is always there somehow trying to get your attention anyway. There's a little proverb that's been trying to drop into my hands all week long, and by that I mean it showed up in a couple different readings, and I had no intention of using it today, but then I even wound up watching a bit of a video yesterday to take a break, and guess what was in the video? The same proverb. So, when things start coming around in your life once, twice, thrice, there's an old expression, life gives clues. So I thought I might pay attention to it and work it in a little bit into today's lesson. Also, I was considering Dr. Grayson's lesson on, Jimmy gave you the name, I've forgotten. Pardon me? The Kingdom of Promise, and it It was a huge lesson, and it was a complicated lesson, and I would have to rework it for a couple days to make it really good for 2022. But this proverb came around, so we'll talk a little about this. But with Easter, we're going to invite Spirit into our awareness, and as we do this, we become more awake, we become more aware, we become more alive. Spirit will animate us if you invite it into your awareness. We're able to have a greater appreciation of life, and we're able to be a light unto others when we take that pause and when we invite the awareness of Spirit into our consciousness. So there is this talk by Dr. Grayson about the promise, which I did spend a day or two with. In all of the religions Dr. Grayson mentioned, there's the idea of a promise, a kingdom of promise, he said, of some kind. And this idea didn't really start with religions. It came down through mythology, through stories and legends. And then, of course, the religions would adopt a lot of these older stories. This is where the religions got most of them. But the common themes will be, there's going to be a happy place that we're going to wind up in. There's going to be a happy hunting ground. There's going to be a happy or a place of reward for us, a place where we will go if we have lived and lived well and lived a life that was full of good deeds. So we have this promise that comes down through just about every religion you can think of. And there's all kinds of scriptures from religions I was digging around and that seem to offer this promise universally of something better. And the better might be just in this present experience. It may not even be in, of course, some of them are thinking in terms of an afterlife. But from a new thought perspective, this kingdom of promise happens in the now. This better life, this reward is instantaneous if you have the consciousness to transform your day-to-day living and invite Spirit into your awareness. Then the reward it's like an instant thing. It's instant karma. It's here. You don't have to wait for a life living. You don't have to wait for Spirit to be with you. Spirit is with you now. But in all these religions, there was a promise, and there were many different approaches. There's an expectation that good will take place in the future, or in our teaching, in the now. And as a result of living and thinking, or praying in some cases in a certain way. I looked at the Bible, the New Testament and the Old Testament a bit this week for this lesson, especially after I was delving into the Grayson material. Many of the scriptures in the world, as I said before, have promises in them, and all the different faiths. And I just want to mention two passages today, and I think that's enough. And both happen to be from the Bible. And I'm going to use them because I think they're clear, and I think that they're helpful. And one of them just kept on falling in my lap this week, so I thought, well, I'm supposed to talk about this for a moment. So from the Old Testament, there's a promise, and in the particular passage, there's also the process or the way to achieve the promise. So the scripture is going to give you a promise, and it's going to tell you how to acquire it. Okay, everybody understands that. And I'm going to paraphrase it and take out the male pronouns and all that stuff too. So if you go to the Old Testament in Proverbs, I want to paraphrase just one line from Proverbs the 3rd. And instead of he, we'll say, and it, this presence, will direct my path. It will direct my path. And you know something? I teach that here every Sunday. I teach you here every Sunday that there is guidance. There is that which is within you that knows and always knows, and it will guide you. And Emerson said it's wooing you. So the third proverb will say, It will direct my path. It will always direct my path. You have an internal guidance system that will direct your path. That's a promise, right? You have that which is within you that will direct your path. So that's a promise. It will direct my path. Not only are we supplied and supported, but we are guided. And the proverb tells us how it's going to happen. It suggests very strongly just before. So we know that it will direct our path, right? Everybody, I want you to get that part. Spirit within will direct your path. And it tells you exactly what you need to do. It'll direct your path if you invite it in, if you acknowledge its presence in everything that you do. If you acknowledge Spirit and you bring it into your heart and your mind and your awareness, if this is what you do, if Spirit is invited in, the promise is it will direct your path. It's always there for you. It's such a simple idea and it's so profound. So we wake up in this teaching and we do our affirmative prayer and our spiritual mind treatments. And the first step of the treatment is a recognition that this power is here. And we invite it into our awareness. And we know that it will direct our path. There is that which is within us, again, that knows everything that we need to know and offers guidance. So we can get all of that from this proverb. If we invite it in, if you bring it into your heart and into your mind, and bring it into your activities, and acknowledge this presence in all that you do. You might say, there is God in this. In fact, that's what I used to do 25 years ago. I would always say, this is God in my life, this is God in my life, whatever I was doing, wherever I was going. And the thing is, that really is a powerful thing to do, because if you keep bringing that into your awareness, you're going to have a lot of shifts in consciousness. You'll step out of the problems, you'll step out of the arguments, because you're going to say, this is God in my life. I'm inviting the awareness of Spirit into my life, and it will direct my path. It will offer you guidance. It's always there, and it always responds. So that was a very profound thing for me when I put it all together. The takeaway from it, very simply, is you have within you that which will direct you. The instruction is simply acknowledge it. Acknowledge it in your thoughts, your deeds, in your day-to-day, hour-by-hour living. Different traditions. I remember as when I was younger, it was the monks at the airport chanting Hare Krishna all day long. What they're doing is they're becoming conscious of Spirit, and they're inviting Spirit into their awareness. And Spirit will speak. Spirit will direct if you allow it. Spirit will never be the uninvited guest, so we need to invite it in. When in religious science we say we're practicing the presence, we're slowing down, and we're taking a pause, and we're taking the time to realize that there is a presence and there is a power. It's here, it's now, it's available always. So we're acknowledging it, we're communing with it, and there will be guidance as we do this. Inspiration. Where do you think these ideas come from? As you commune with it, there is something that comes into your consciousness. I was running into that proverb all week long. I didn't even know, it was on my card, so to speak of today. It's very clear. The instruction is all you have to do is invite this Spirit into your awareness and know that it is there. So we have the promise that it will direct us, it will guide us, it will be with us always if we commune with it and invite it into our awareness. You'll often hear me say that it won't be the uninvited guest, so acknowledging it is important. Allow its guidance. And then we're going to take something from the New Testament. So what you just heard was from Proverbs chapter 3. From the New Testament, we have Matthew. And again, I'm going to take away the male pronouns, and I'm going to paraphrase it. In Matthew, referring to promises, in this case, promises that were being taught by the great teacher, Jesus, all things shall be added, and nothing is denied you. So that's certainly a promise, right? Everything is going to be added and given to you, and nothing will be denied you. And with Matthew, the instruction is very clear also. It's telling us what to do. For us to have these promises to be true and evident in our life, we are instructed to focus on source first, to focus on God first, to focus on knowing that this creative intelligence is here right now, in operation within you. Focus on this source, this loving God. Love this. Commune with this first. Become aware of it in your atmosphere, in your family, in your interactions. Know that it's here. Focus on this source first. And knowing, again, that it's in operation right now, practice this awareness. Practice and know that it is here and now. There is a presence and there is a power that's available to you right now. This is our practice. And we want to know this with every fiber of our being. We want to have this awareness that there is this presence in us here and around us. And all good things will follow after you have that realization. So here it is again. We want to focus, we want to know that there is this promise, this presence that's here, it's in us, around us. And then, after we have this deep realization, which is really, again, the first step of treatment, all good things will follow from that realization. So again, we don't want to leave this creative intelligence, this source, this spirit out of any equation. We want to invite this spirit into every equation, into every moment, and let it inform us. And all good things will follow. That's another promise, in this case from Matthew. How do we do that? Well, most people in this teaching get in the habit of meditation, and they learn how to do affirmative prayer. When we're in this teaching, we train ourselves to understand that everything is spirit in action. There's nothing you can witness that's not a God activity. You might not like what you see, but everything you see is the unfolding activity of God in front of you. And we know that everyone is doing the best that they can with the understanding that they have. So everything we can witness is spirit in action. This is a metaphysician. This is a person who's becoming a mystic. This is a person who knows that God is all that there is. This is a person who's witnessing the evolution of spiritual activity that's everywhere. You have the eyes, then you are a person who can discern. You can see that there is God in all things. In our teaching, we look past the apparent difficulties that are in our lives. We look past the challenges, and we develop a more transcendent view. We see that the factual information that's there. I mean, we're not ignorant of any fact. We see it in our own lives. We see where we've made mistakes. We see where other people make mistakes. We see medical reality, financial reality. We see all of this. But we also know that there is spirit in action. And so we look past the apparent difficulty, and we know that we develop a transcendent view of all activity because we know that there is spirit in operation. We are learning ourselves to operate with the understanding that everything is unfolding in divine order. We are developing spiritual vision and realization. So as truth students, as metaphysicians, as New Thought students, we're practicing. It is our practice to see the good, to know the good, to not get involved in the story, to drop it. Wherever we find ourselves saying not good enough of ourselves or others, we're not the commentator or the judge of any of that. We are, borrowing from another tradition, as God created us, in the light and the love and the glory. We're here to appreciate the good, to grow and evolve, and we're here to witness the good that's in all people everywhere. Regardless of what's happening in the outer world, This is our vision, to lift up and hitch our wagon to the stars and to see the good and hold the good. Certainly there's enough of the world that's doing it the other way. If you want to lead and lead yourself out of your history, your story of places of brokenness and where things that have happened and if you want to step out of all of that, then we first must have a vision. And we want to embrace a much, much higher vision than we did at different times in our life. So if you're able to understand that you're living in a spiritual system and God is the reality, and if you're able to lift your vision to a different place, you're going to begin to demonstrate from this higher place. Your life is going to then start to outpicture if you're focusing on God first again, all things are then added. So ours is a high calling. We're here to be the guardian at the gate of our consciousness. That means our thinking, our thoughts, and our emotions, and to keep lifting ourselves to a higher place. And then we will start to demonstrate the effects of that type of knowing, that type of consciousness. Your life is going to mirror your knowing, or your life is going to mirror your consciousness. It doesn't matter if your life has been working against you for the past 10, 20, 30 years. Starting here and starting now, you can have a new moment and you can begin again. The final chapter for you has not been written, or for me, and there's much that we can do, and there's much that we can be excited about, and there's all kinds of ways we can participate in this wonderful adventure. Again, this is possible only if you're inviting this spirit into your awareness. Okay? If you do that, all the good things are added and will be added. And that's the promise for today. This is Easter time in Christian calendar. In the New Testament, there were stories and parables of all kinds. And most of them had a promise, not only of things to come, but of happenings that can take place right now with this transformed consciousness. As you review the stories in the parables, you're going to find that all the stories are about healing of consciousness. And as long as you're able to discern that in the New Testament, that Jesus is talking about the power is within you that heals, not outside of you. The advice he gave was always the same. Seek first the awareness of this kingdom, of this presence, that it is here and it's now and it's in your thoughts. It's within you and it's at hand. The potential is here, it's available right now, and we are called to use it, to trust it, and to develop it. Most of you who came out of that tradition are aware that he spoke a lot about having the faith. He talks about a mustard seed, and he said, the seed has within it tremendous potential. All it needs is receptive soil. If it has receptive soil, it has within itself the potential for growth and development. In that story, in the story of the mustard seed, we are reminded that the mustard seed is the tiniest seed of all, and yet within it is the potential for vast growth. So from that story and other stories, we can draw a conclusion. Most of humankind on the surface lives on the surface, and this is borrowing from Stuart Grayson, trying to get by using their intellect. Most everyone is reacting to something or someone, and they're living on a surface type of existence, acting and reacting. And there's a tremendous amount of fear that's evident in most people's lives. As you enter our classes every Thursday and every Sunday, as you enter the world of metaphysics and new thought, you begin to realize it doesn't have to be that way for you. Even though that's the way it is for most people. People do not universally feel as though they have very much power. You come into our classes and we tell you that you are one with power. You have power to use, and it's amazing, and it's awesome, and you're here to shine and to create a wonderful life. But others, what they notice as they get into the middle part of their life, they notice that they've lost quite a few things. There's been some suffering and pain. Many people have lived without much joy. Many people don't have a lot of positive expectancy. But that's not us. That's not people who are involved in this teaching. You know, I know people in this teaching well into their 80s who are as joyful as children and full of life, and that's the possibility. But for the majority, people have been conditioned to think that life is hard, life is difficult. And from some of the religions, who am I to think I deserve this or that? And they've concluded in some way that they're deficient, they're wrong, or they're bad. And that's how it is for a lot of people, if not most of society. And for other people, their faith in the future, their faith in life is much harder. The excitement and the joy of their youth is oftentimes gone. People have settled into roles, occupations, relationships, and they wonder, with great despair sometimes, is this all there is for me? And so I consider us very lucky, those of us who are in our teaching, because as we consider what the masses entertain, they don't really see a way out. And they see struggle, and they see inflation, and they see warring ideas and thoughts. I watch the commentary in our own social media from time to time, and some of the people who make comments think that we've lost our minds because they think that these beliefs, they believe that life is really tough, right? And they believe life is really hard and awful sometimes. And so they think that people who are in our teaching are very naive, or they think worse. And you see, as a practicing truth student, and I mean as a practicing truth student, as a person who studies our material, we have such a gift. If you've been with us for a while, or you've been taking classes elsewhere and you've really been practicing, you have been given such a tremendous gift. Because the good, basically if you're focusing on, there is this spirit, the spiritual activity that's in you, operating through you, and as you know that every encounter is a holy encounter, and you live and move and have your being in this idea of God, this atmosphere of God, then all good things are added to that. As you invite it in, again, the promise is all good things will be added to that. All we have to do is wake up from the story. And many of us have been entertaining many stories. So we come into our classes every Thursday night. I'll ask, what's it been like being you? And what I'm asking you to do is to start reflecting, what it is that you've been saying to yourself all week. And we have to come out of these coma-like states where we're repeating old ideas. And we want to come out, and we want to come into a world where we know that we're one with life, and life is here, and life is responding, and life is giving us all good things. If you're in this teaching, you absolutely begin to know that you have the power and the ability to turn it all around. To use a Raymond Charles Barker phrase, you have the whole bit within you. You can turn the whole situation around, the whole bit, he used to say. You can become prosperous, you can become healthy-minded, you can become enthusiastic, you can experience joy, you can develop a deep and abiding sense that life is here for you, and you can turn it all around. It's all possible. You have the power, it's available, it's yours to use. When you're in this teaching, you understand that the universe is denying you absolutely nothing. And you will also understand that it's entirely up to you to turn it around. This, of course, requires staying with it. It requires tuning in. It requires having a little bit of spiritual discipline. You've got to want it. You've got to want this better life more than you want the drama and the pain and the stories that we have habitually entertained throughout our lives. It requires unlearning. I'm fond of talking about the book, The Four Agreements. So we have all these agreements about life that we've been taught, and a lot of that stuff we need to let go of so we can enter a new moment and we can invite spirit into our awareness and know that it is here, and we can feel it and sense it, and then all good things will be added to it. This requires us slowing ourselves down a little bit, taking that pause for a little bit of meditation and a little bit of affirmative prayer, and especially doing so when we find ourselves off track. When you're living just on the surface and it's acting and reacting, you'll be dealing with a lot of worry and fear a lot of the time. And when you're too busy to meditate and you're too busy to pray and you're too busy to tune in here on a Sunday or a Thursday, we understand. But the thing is, when we get off track and we forget who we are and we forget that we're one with Spirit, and all that the Father has is ours, then we're like the prodigal child. We're off in the weeds somewhere. So the invitation is always to get plugged in, to stay connected. I'm grateful I found a teaching like this, and I know many of you are too. Many people are apt to live their life in such a way where they see themselves as disadvantaged and lacking and not good enough. We are not those people. I get phone calls often from people who've been involved in the classes, and they might have disappeared for weeks and months, and eventually they turn up and and they are astonished. They say, I don't know what happened, or I got too busy to do affirmative prayer, I got too busy to come to the center, too busy to take the classes. And then generally it follows. They get into a story of everything that happened to them. Here's the thing I want to share today, and I think I'm going to wind it down. Anyone who has a real grip on this teaching or real understanding understands that things don't just happen to us. There is a law of cause and effect always in operation. Younger generations think of it as the law of attraction. It's also known as a law of correspondence. It's the same idea, though, however we think of it. It's the same law. Whatever is in your life, however beautiful or horrendous, is a reflection of your consciousness. And this is neither good nor bad. It's a law in operation. Obviously, if you stay in tune and in touch with yourself, and if you can bring yourself, boring for Matthew again, as you can get in touch and know that there is God here, now, if you keep inviting it in, it will direct your path. If you can discipline yourself enough to tune in once, twice a week, this center is always going to be reminding you of how great you are, and we're going to remind you of the power you possess. If you can develop a daily practice of affirmative prayer, you will be communing with Spirit and you will receive guidance. Most people don't do it. The masses don't do it. And yet they're evolving too. You can live consciously. There can be a quickening for you. You can be demonstrating the great life and the good life now. There's nothing stopping you. The universe is attempting to get your attention. So let's invite it in today. Let's invite its guidance. Let's love it and invite its guidance and know all good things will be added to it. And I think that's enough for the moment. And so ends the morning's lesson. I would look forward to hearing everything you have to say in about 2 minutes, 1 minute. Thank you.